The Board of Commissioners meeting to order here at 10 o'clock. Please stand if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Do we have any public comment for items not appearing on today's agenda? I see some public here, but probably then for items on the agenda. Do we have any additions to the agenda? Commissioner Concepcion, Commissioner Dersham? All right. We'll move on to our meeting minutes. The board will consider approving the minutes from the Board of Commissioners meeting held on July 11th. Any changes or alterations to the minutes? We'll take a motion then.
I'll move to approve the minutes from the meeting held July 11th, 2023.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the meeting held on July 11th. All those in favor do so by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, we'll move on to our proclamations. We have proclamation number 32, proclaiming July 21st as Park and Recreational Professionals Day in Center County. And we have Emily and Christy here. Why don't you come on up? We actually have two chairs if you want to sit here at the table with us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your organization and the Park and Recreational Professionals Day, who help make all of our days brighter 365 days a year.
Sure. I'm Emily Schnelba from the Pennsylvania Recreation and Park Society, and this is our 5th year for Park and Rec Professionals Day. It's celebrated nationally during Park and Recreation Month, and it honors the Park and Rec professionals throughout the country that provide our communities a better place to live, work, and play. Pennsylvania has more than 6,200 local and state parks, and we have a local parks finder at goodforpa.com, and you can search by county, municipality, and proximity. We are also highlighting 3 parks here on Friday throughout the state. In the west will be Peters Township, central is Carlisle Parks and Recreation, and the east is Lower Makefield Township. And Christy, did you mention anything else?
Sure, I'm Christy Owens. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation for Center Region Parks and Rec, and just happy to be here. We are honoring Parks and Rec Day in addition to Parks and Recreation Month, and celebrating our staff. We have over 56 regional park facilities in Center Region alone. We employ over 200 employees throughout the year. We work with over 800 volunteers, so we have roughly 1,000 individuals who really try to support and push forward Parks and Recreation to make our communities more vibrant and healthy, and a great place to live. This Friday, we're actually celebrating our staff at Tudeck Park. We're honoring them with a special field day, kind of in the field acknowledgement of all their hard work and dedication throughout the year.
Wonderful. Anything else you'd like to add? No? No? Well, great to hear. We have many, many dozens of parks here in Center County. I enjoy them very often, including the bike and walking trails, and just the scenery, going for walks. It's so nice to have it there, well-maintained, safe, and with lots and lots of amenities. I'll turn over to Commissioner Concepcion for additional comments.
Sure, thanks for everything you do. It's good to meet you, Christy. I think you've come into this position since I left SCASD, so I hadn't had a chance to meet you through COG meetings. So yeah, just appreciate all that you do. We're big users of the parks in our area, and we live up the hill from Park Forest Pool, and that's been someplace my kids have spent a huge amount of their childhoods hanging out. And our parks and the pools that are part of our parks, they really form places there for people in the community to come together to schedule things like picnics and potlucks and events like swim meets that bring the community together. It really just helps strengthen relationships throughout the community. So it's not just having the space for outdoor recreation, it's places for community. And then, of course, everything that Parks and Rec does in terms of providing for childcare for children during the summer, that's really a critical part of what you're doing. All the opportunities for kids to learn things like kayaking and canoeing camp and hiking camp, and those things that happen are really great. And then, of course, teaching kids to swim. That's super critical part of that, of what you all do. So thanks for everything you do.
Great. Commissioner Dershowitz.
It wouldn't happen without you guys. I mean, it's one of those things where we maybe take for granted the fact that, that these spaces are just maintained, but somebody's got to cut the grass and keep all the things moving that, not to mention all the scheduling and all the other elements that make parks pretty amazing places to be. And I think I echo my fellow commissioners' thoughts when it says, they are wonderful places to go and relax and to recreate and do all the things that you see being done. And sometimes it's just nice to know that there's green space out there that we can spend a little time. And whether it's a municipal park or a state park or even a national park, it's all pretty amazing that we've built this infrastructure in for people to enjoy. So thank you very much.
All right, unless there's any other discussion, I think we're ready for a motion.
I'll move to adopt Proclamation 32 of 2023, proclaiming July 21st, 2023 as Park and Recreational Professionals Day in Center County.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adopting proclamation number 32 do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Any questions from the press? No? All right. We'll come on up and we'll give you the proclamation. We'll take the picture for the county's social media and pass a copy on to your organizations as well.
Let me close this door.
There you go. Thanks. All right, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Keep up the good work.
Good luck with your new job.
Yes, what a pleasure to meet you.
All right, and next up, we have resolution number 11 of 23. It's a resolution supporting Three Dots Downtown in their inclusion in the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts Creative Communities Initiative, which is part of an initiative to bring an arts and entertainment area to downtown State College. Erica, why don't you join us here up at the table and tell us a little bit about your organization and the grant you just received.
Hi, how's it going? So Three Dots is an arts community space located in downtown State College, but we actually serve the whole county. Our services are multifold. So we have a really cutting-edge contemporary art gallery. We have a space for performances. We put on larger events like the annual Runnymede Fest, which brings together different parts of the county. And we also give out grants. So every single month we give out a $1,000 grant somewhere within Center County. And as we have developed networks across the state, we've really become, I think, a place that's gotten a lot of attention for outlets across the state, including statewide funders. And so we are now we're one of 8 communities in the state that's going to be officially a creative community, which means that for the next 4 years, we're going to receive $25,000 a year, and we're going to be part of the statewide cohort. And so the Creative Communities Initiative is this integral partnership between arts and cultural organizations and local government. And it's really designed to enact systems-wide change. And so our project is establishing an arts residency center and arts economic incubation center. So we want to have a residency center for local artists to have their studios downtown, but also work with visiting artists to occupy 2 of those spaces from outside the county, and have them live and work in Center County for periods of time. We also want to make a gallery space possible within that framework, have an open studio concept where people can come and see not just the finished product of art, music, etc., being made, but actually see the process. And so it's this idea of this raw versus cooked approach to this kind of lifelong engagement in the arts. And so, yeah, we're really excited.
Eric, actually, the grant's a little bigger than I thought. I thought it was a 25K one-time shot.
No, it's for 4 years. Yeah.
Wonderful. Could you expand a little bit about the partnerships you have with all the businesses downtown and the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau? I know you have a couple of different groups you're affiliated with that also receive the tourism grants from the commissioners and the Adventure Bureau, and you've been putting on some really wonderful events at your space.
Thank you. Yeah, so we have support in this from the Adventure Bureau to actually, it's like one-time funding to get this off the ground. To do this, we're going to be taking over a secondary piece of real estate. And so we're working with local downtown property owners, local downtown businesses. I sit on the Retail Advisory Committee for the Downtown Improvement District. So getting a lot of local kind of economic buy-in. Because when you bring a person downtown to come to an arts and culture event, they're going to spend $25 in the community, right? So if you amplify that over the course of what kind of impact this has, I think that's one level of economic impact. The second is to bring people here to actually live and work. We've also, in the last year or two, there have been a few people who are part of our work who live in New York or DC or whatever, and who have moved here because they can work remotely and they get excited about there being a vibrant cultural community. And so one of those people from New York who works at Google is coming to our open mic tonight because he just felt like he didn't have access to that community where he was living before. So I think about becoming kind of a beacon in that way. And our cultural connections across the county are really rich. So the residency program engages more rural spaces, like Runnymede, like the workshop in Center Hall. And so it's part of how we're trying to reach out beyond State College Borough to bring working, practicing artists, poets, et cetera, to these rural communities across the county, and to really connect in an authentic way with those communities.
So for those of you who are not familiar with Runnymede, it's a arts and sculpture garden located relatively close to the Meadows on Route 45, kind of in the gateway to Penns Valley. Beautiful, beautiful space. And the arts not only increase our enjoyment of life, but they also improve our quality of life and strengthen our communities. So great background there, Erica. I'll hand it over to Commissioner Concepcion for additional comments.
Congratulations. I know there a lot of work went into being accepted into this Creative Communities initiative. And I think Three Dots is just going to continue to thrive and grow and bring more exciting events throughout our community. So thank you for everything you're doing, and congrats on this award.
Congratulations. I think it's noteworthy that you're taking on. It's a big endeavor that you're on, and I hope it's very successful. It'll be interesting to see how this all turns out and what it looks like a few years just from now. So great. Thank you.
Any questions from the press on the grant, Runnymede, Three Dots? Kind of a broad array of things happening in downtown in one space. All right. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to adopt the resolution then.
I'll move to adopt Resolution 11 of 2023.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution number 11 of 2023. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks for coming, Eric. Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll move on to a large number of contracts, starting with planning and community development. Ray will come up and I think possibly cover two. First one is for a DCNR grant for the Wildlife for Everyone Foundation, covering the Soaring Eagle wetlands.
Yes. Good morning, Commissioners. We have two items. First one deals with the Wildlife for Everyone. As Commissioner Higgins said, it's a consideration of approval of an amended agreement to provide services for administration of the DCNR grant BRC PRD 2889 and the amended lease operations and maintenance agreement with Wildlife for Everyone and their foundation. There's two tax parcels in Houston Township that will be part of the Wildlife for Everyone Soaring Eagle Phase 2 project. They were awarded $401,400 for the improvements at the site. $200,700 are their share for DCNR. This term of the agreement starts July 18th, 2023, and it runs for 25 years from the day the project's completed. The improvements that Wildlife for Everyone will be taking on at the site will be construction of a pedestrian walkway, boardwalk trail observation area, stormwater management measures, installation of interpretive signage, ADA access, landscaping, a project sign, and other related site improvements. We've been working with the staff of Wildlife for Everyone and with Tom Levine, who's the engineer, and we are a sponsor of Center County, so this is up for the consideration for Commissioner's approval.
Great. Thanks, Ray. And the Soaring Eagle Wetlands is a handicapped accessible
Correct.
experience. It's located, I think, roughly a little bit, what would you say, north and east of Port Matilda.
Yes. Off of
Highway
Old
there.
220.
Got to look carefully for the sign. It's not very large. Any questions or comments, Commissioner Concepcion?
Yeah, I think this is a really good project, and so essentially what we're agreeing to right now then is to be the grant administrator, and then could you just give us a little more information about the lease agreement changes?
Right, so Wildlife for Everyone is not an eligible applicant for the DCNR application. Houston Township or Center County can be. Originally, Center County was in the first Phase 1 agreement. Now this is Phase 2, and we are continuing that cooperation with Wildlife for Everyone to be that sponsor.
So it's extending what we had agreed to in Phase 1 to
Yes.
this other part of the parcel.
And it is a requirement of DCNR since we are a leasee, or Wildlife for Everyone's a leasee. Sorry about that.
Makes
Center
sense.
County's leasing, so we are the applicant for Wildlife for Everyone.
Maybe just a layer on Amber's question. What are our obligations for, what are we signing on for 25 years to do specifically? That's the only thing I'm curious.
So basically, we don't have any responsibility in the maintenance, upkeep, or responsibility of the facility. It basically states that we're the sponsor for their project.
So
That's
for
spelled out.
25 years, they're going to look after, tend to that property and make sure that it,
That is correct. We're not responsible for tending to those improvements or maintaining them over time.
okay, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Ray. Yeah, this is a partnership with Wildlife for Everyone so that we can pull down those state grants, because I believe only the county or the local municipality are the eligible.
That's correct.
organization.
That's correct. Under the C2P2 grant, which is traditionally where these organizations find the funding to do traditional park improvements like trails or parking facilities, pavilions, this is the source that is usually sought after.
Any other questions from the commissioners? No? Good. Take the motion then.
I'll move to approve the amended agreement with Wildlife for Everyone Foundation.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor do so by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Any questions from the press on that one? No? All right. We will move on to the multimodal bridge replacement bundle, Part 2.
Sure, we'll go from parks to transportation. As you recall, last week, the commissioners approved the advertisement for bidding on the multimodal bridge replacement bundle. We are now asking commissioners for consideration for price proposal and contract to approve for Eads Group Incorporated. Contract totals $174,649.36 for the period of March 24th to May 24th and March 2025 to September 2025. And this is for construction inspection services for the both bridge replacements. This would be Railroad Street in Bellefonte and Mill Street in Howard Borough.
Great. Glad to see we're moving those along. Any questions, Commissioner Concepcion? Commissioner Dershowitz? All right.
I'll move to approve the contract with Eads Group Incorporated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the contract with the Eads Group, do so by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks, Ray. And now we'll bring Chris up for what's probably going to be the news story tonight and tomorrow in the press. Got some gas wars going on in Greater Bellefonte.
Well, thank you and good morning. Back in March, news had broke that there was going to be a Wawa coming and locating on the Benner Pike in Benner Township. Well, those plans have been formally submitted, and as one of the components of this land development plan is what's called a memorandum of understanding. And the memorandum of understanding is simply a three-party agreement between the developer, the township, and the county, whereby the developer will agree to reimburse, in this case, Benner Township, for the costs associated with the township engineers processing, reviewing, inspecting, and approving the engineering aspects of the plan. So the Board of Commissioners aren't approving the plans themselves, they're simply approving this three-party agreement so the township engineer can get paid for incurring the review cost of the engineering part of the plan. Now, where this property is located is along the Benner Pike, and it's right across from Sheets. Just to show you on the aerial, this is the Benner Pike, and this is Eagle Point, and if you're heading to the north, you are going into Bellefonte, and if you're heading south, you're going toward the Bellefonte Lanes, as well as the Shops at Paradise and the correctional facility. And where Wawa is going to be located is at the corner of Benner Pike and Eagle Point. The plan that was submitted represents a final plan, and it's for the construction of a 6,606 square foot facility. The plan is a twofold plan. One, it's a subdivision where they're going to be subdividing the property, which is highlighted in blue, but it doesn't include the Greystone Court. That's on a separate lot. It just happens to be sort of a hole there around the property. So there's going to be a lot located there for Wawa, and then the remaining area is going to continue to be a stormwater and overflow parking for Stuckey automobiles. Now, the plan that was prepared by Pentair Engineering, and this shows basically the subdivision that I just mentioned. Lot 5 is going to be 1.8 acres, and then the remaining area is going to continue to be just under 20 acres with the stormwater management facility, and that's the overflow parking that was mentioned in Dunkin' Donuts. Now, the sort of a closer up view is the 6,600 square foot Wawa. The primary access is going to be at Eagle Point, where they're going to have a full in and out access, going to create a plus intersection with Eagle Point, which is a township road. They're also proposing a right out only onto Benner Pike, so if you want to get back onto I-99, you can either come this way to the light, you can go directly out onto the Benner Pike with a right only, and they're also creating an access easement through Dunkin' Donuts as well, because that also has a right out as well. Stormwater is going to be directed toward the regional facility that has been already designed and is able to handle the stormwater aspect of the impervious coverage that's being generated at this location. Some of the major points here are going to be stormwater, which again, that stormwater facility was designed and is going to be verified by the township engineer, and they're going to be directing the stormwater in several pipes to get down to the stormwater facility. And PennDOT, the applicant's engineer, traffic engineer, has submitted the traffic impact study to not only the Benner Township traffic engineer, but also to PennDOT for the improvements as part of Wawa. And so those are being reviewed as we speak. There's going to be, I believe, 16 fueling stations within 8 pumps. And that's the plans for the Wawa at Eagle Point that's being presented today.
All right, Chris, can you go back to the first slide? So we've got the Sheets on the right-hand side, the
Yep.
Wawa on the left-hand side.
Right.
Toward the bottom, we have the gas station at the Giant.
Yes.
And then just past the solar array for the Center County Correctional Facility in the lower right, we have the Rudders.
Correct.
So in just a couple of years, we've gone from 1 gas station on the Benner Pike to 4. Quite a lot of, well, progress might not be the right term for it, but quite a lot of motion, shall we say, in Greater Bellefonte at this point. A lot more businesses, a lot more activity. And I believe, isn't that stretch of Benner Pike becoming one of the busier streets in the entire county now?
PennDOT is aware of the amount of volume going up and down the Benner Pike,
All right.
yes.
Good, good. Well, thanks for the concise, detailed presentation. Appreciate that. Commissioner Concepcion.
Questions?
Commissioner Dershowitz.
None for me, thank you.
All right. Any questions from the press?
Did they submit any timetable for construction or any of the plans?
No, we have not. As with any developer, the sooner the better.
Is there any other stage of the planning process that needs approval, or are they, that's about it?
The plans have only been formally submitted a couple weeks ago. It hasn't even brought before the county planning commission, but they are working with the townships. In Benner Township, they have a lot of their own regulations that are administered by the township, such as zoning. So they're working with the zoning officer. They have stormwater management, so they're working with the township engineer. They have their own street standards, so they're working with the township's traffic engineer. So they are continuing to work with a lot of those approving authorities, and they have met with those authorities previously. So those approving authorities are aware of the proposal.
And you mentioned how PennDOT was aware of the increased traffic on that road. Is there anything specifically that might be done to address that by having 4 different gas stations off of a major highway?
You have to talk to the traffic engineers on that, but they are aware of that. And that when the traffic studies come in, the traffic engineers take into account the developments throughout the area. So they are taking into account the Shops at Paradise, the existing traffic, Logan Green and Spring Township. But it's in terms of what they plan to do to remediate that, that's something we'll have to discuss with PennDOT.
Has the county planning office seen or reviewed any other plans for any other development, hotels, whatever, along that strip of the Benner Pike?
Just the one up there at Amberley, next to Penn State Federal Credit Union. Other than that, no.
Great. Any more questions from the press? No? Great. Well, thanks a lot. I think we can probably take a motion now.
I'll move to add the memorandum of understanding for the Wawa convenience store to next week's consent agenda.
I will second that. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adding the memorandum of understanding for the Wawa convenience store to next week's consent agenda, do so by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
One last thing, Chris. Has there been any other conversation or discussion about the warehouse in Benner Township that
They're still working through the approval process.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, now, thanks, Chris. We'll move on to Chad, large contract for Microsoft products.
Good morning. Yes, I have our 3-year renewal with Microsoft. As we know, Microsoft provides really kind of a backbone for a lot of the employees' work. It has our email, our Office applications such as Word and Excel. And over the past couple years, we've migrated our employees to Office 365, which has added OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams for greater collaboration and remote work opportunities. This contract also provides us with our licensing for our server infrastructure, as well as our operating systems on all our laptops and desktops that everyone uses throughout the county. So this is a kind of 2 parts to this. There is a one-time true-up, which is sort of a correction for licenses that we've been using over the last 3 years. And the numbers on here are going to be slightly different. We've submitted this to CDWG, and Microsoft reviewed it, and there's going to be a slight tweak in the numbers, which I have the estimated numbers, but I'll have those before the actual numbers before the consent agenda next week. So the one-time true-up, I anticipate that's going to come in at $25,418.16. And then the annual costs will go up slightly from what's listed on here to $226,480.63, and that'll be the same amount year 1, 2, and 3. And that will bring the 3-year total to $704,860.05. And I did notice on the agenda, it says July 31st, 2024. That'll actually go out to 2026 on the 3-year contract.
Great. Well, obviously, big software vendor, getting a lot of services from them. Commissioner Concepcion, any questions?
Thanks for keeping us up to date.
Commissioner Pearson?
Just as long as we have the record corrected to 2026.
All right, so if we take a motion with the change on the date.
I'll move to add this contract with CWG LLC for the period of August 2023 to July 31st, 2026, to provide Microsoft to next week's consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the contract with CWG for Microsoft, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we'll move over to contracts for human services. Did we lose that mic or is it, no, it's on. And Julia will cover some contracts for MHIDEI drug and alcohol.
Good morning. I'm here to ask for approval of a letter of agreement with Susquehanna Software Incorporated. They are the data system management that MHIDEI and drug and alcohol use. The county match for that is $2,342.
All right, and then I see we have the next item as well. Motion.
Sure. So the next item is a contract addendum with the Advocacy Alliance to allow for additional funds for intellectual disability incident management services. So this is an increase of $7,500. The county match with that is $1,037 for the entire year.
Great, thanks, Jay. Any questions, Commissioner Concepcion? Commissioner Pearson? All right.
I'll move to add the MHIDEI DNA items 1 and 2 to next week's consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second to approve the MHIDEI drug and alcohol items 1 and 2 to next week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great, thanks, Julia. We'll see you back up in about 2 minutes. And Faith has a couple of items for adult services. We'll take separate motions on these.
Good morning. I am here first with the request to submit a Home for Good grant. This is a collaboration between the Federal Home Loan Bank of Pittsburgh, or FHL Bank, and the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency, PHFA, in which we have a relationship with already. And this is actually going through our Eastern PA COC. So this is an opportunity for us to apply for a plethora of items and be fairly creative. And so what we're looking at right now is applying for $62,260 to put towards a number of items to help those that are experiencing literal homelessness or very high housing barriers. So as you're familiar, we have a number of housing programs internally within the office, but we also have contracts out with other providers as well. We're very fortunate to have quite a spectrum of services, but one of the places that we do struggle are having assistance for things like transportation, childcare, moving, and rental assistance applications. Those are not typically funding streams that we see, nor are they part of a lot of our federal grant dollars as approvable expenses. In the past year plus, but just kind of looking at fiscal year 22-23, we had pretty significant data across 4 of our major case management programs, identifying that transportation being things like affording public transportation or purchasing a vehicle repair, or even living somewhere where they can use public transportation if they have no other means, have been very serious barriers to housing and also employment, which obviously employment is needed for housing. We're also seeing an increased need in childcare services. So we have a lot of people that might be trying to get out of homelessness, but they have children and they either cannot afford daycare or there's actually a huge availability issue as well. And so again, it just is a big domino effect. If I can't get childcare, I can't get work, I can't pay for the vehicle, I can't get housing, and then the issues just compound and compound. We continue to find that more and more people are using our high need programs from anywhere to 6 to 12 months when it should be more about 3 to 6, a lot of the times because of these barriers. Same thing with our moving costs. So we do have people trying to come out of homelessness that might have been paying for storage fees on their items, but they can't afford a moving truck. There are some volunteer groups through different churches, but they are limited, and as we see homelessness grow, it just becomes, again, a capacity issue. Finally, with our rental assistance applications, rental applications for assistance for that. We're seeing the cost per application be as high as $75 to $100. And in this area, people need to apply to at least 5 places to maybe find a vacancy. We had over 200 people on average last year seeking housing searching services or rental application fee assistance. So we're hoping to be able to have kind of that, not a slush fund, but just some money that we can pull from, so to speak. Yeah, it's not a good term. It just came out of my mouth. But some funding in that way where we can address these types of issues that we know are compounding the situation. Contingency, that's right. Thank you.
Yes, contingency, excellent. All right, thanks, Commissioner Concepcion. Any questions?
Yeah, I think this looks like, it should be helpful to have some of that flexibility to be able to help meet people's needs where they're at. Those I can see how those barriers can just add up, like layer upon layer that can just seem insurmountable.
Yes.
And so where we can help remove barriers to get people to a place where they're back on their feet. Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
All right, we'll take a motion on that item then.
I'll move to approve the fiscal year 2023 Home for Good grant submission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the fiscal year 2023 Home for Good grant submission, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And then you have another item for us involving workforce development training, I believe.
So this is the second contract that is associated with our whole home repair program in Center County. It's at the Builders Association of Central Pennsylvania. And so they have stepped up and offered to assist us with the workforce development portion of that grant responsibility. So we're looking at a contract with them for $178,940.46. They are planning to hire a part-time individual for this program, which is allowable. They'll be putting about $80,000 towards training courses, $12,500 towards marketing, which I'm also being told are like lots of different tools to kind of help engage people, bring children, some interest into the field. They do coloring books and other types of events. $25,000 towards tools and supplies, stipends, and then a little over $25,000 for external training. And so one of the things that's been really interesting working with them is getting a better understanding that it's not always just about there being a cost barrier for our local contractors and prospective, like students in school, to attend the training, but actually having training in Center County is an issue. And so some of this money will be to engage trainers from other areas, pay for their costs to come here and provide that service, which is a really exciting opportunity. And so again, that is our step forward here with Whole Home. We've gotten a lot of really nice feedback from DCD. We've been updating them on the regular. We have our website will be up to date soon. We're planning to launch the entire program August 1. And we have probably one of the fastest moving programs in Center County. So we've been really receiving a lot of positive feedback from the grantor, which has been really nice.
That's wonderful to hear, Faith.
Yeah.
Glad to hear we're moving very quickly on getting those services and supports out to help our citizens, and in this case, possibly help young people learn a valuable trade. Nice to hear that in addition to hiring the part-time trainer and purchasing curriculum, that there's also stipends involved for the students and tools, which will probably still be around after the Whole Home program officially ends. So wonderful news. Commissioner Concepcion.
So is the goal of what they're preparing them for to be able to either work with a local contractor or perhaps independently on kind of like residential repair and remodeling kind of project?
So the Builders Association with their networks, right, it's going to be more about identifying what the need is. And so engaging with a CPI, CareerLink, the school districts like we've talked about, and seeing where they can be of support and kind of filling those gaps. But it can also provide training to people that are already contractors too. These individuals are not required in any way to be a part of the whole home repair program. Like obviously if they want to participate in some way in the future, there might be an opportunity, whether it be through Habitat or another contract. But this is really just about getting training and education out to our community without that attachment necessarily. So we're putting it in their hands as the experts to decide what makes the most sense, where they can fill the gaps and provide those services.
I'll move to add the contract with Builders Association of Central PA to next week's consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second to add the contract with Builders Association of Central PA to next week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks, Faith. And I think Julia comes back up for something for aging.
Good morning again. So I'm here to ask for a contract renewal approval with Bobby Raybuck to provide protective services solicitation services. So this is when aging has court cases involving their protective services unit. She provides their representation with the courts, and it is fully state funded. There's no county match.
Great, great. So we're providing assistance to seniors who need assistance with protective services and things of that nature.
Correct.
Generally, at a point in time in your life when you need help, you need assistance from someone else. Glad to see we can be providing that with the state funding, thanks to the state legislature for those funds. Commissioner Concepcion, any questions?
So this basically is this basically to help seniors who might be at risk of elder abuse or those
Correct.
kinds
So
of?
their protective services unit is the one that investigates those cases of elder abuse. And so if charges would need to be filed, the aging would have representation, and Bobby would provide that representation. She also provides representation for children and youth services with the other end of the life spectrum.
That's an important part of what the aging department is tasked to do, so it's great.
Yes, it is. It's a very important part of it.
Okay, I'll move to add the contract with Bobby Raybuck to next week's consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adding the contract with Bobby Raybuck to next week's consent agenda, do so by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks, Julia.
Thank you.
And now a very patient Perry Edwards coming on up to talk about a grant application involving Ben Franklin Technology Partners for a capital challenge competition.
Yeah, thanks for having me here today. Once again, my name is Perry Edwards. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Croptics, which is a local small company based in State College, located in Innovation Park. I'm here today to represent 1855 Capital and Ben Franklin Technology Partners on their application or their request for approval of a letter of support for a grant application for the Susquehanna Capital Alliance, elevating investment in rural PA, prepared by the Ben Franklin Technology Partners of Central and Northern Pennsylvania under the Capital Challenge competition of the 2023 EDA 11024 Build to Scale funding opportunity. So this is a grant that they're submitting for to bring support, investment support back to or locally, and to support companies in their development, and as a company that has investment from 1855 and Ben Franklin, we appreciate the support of having a local investors and a strong investor syndicate to build our company and support jobs and bring and build a company for that they can really thrive locally in the community. So, I look forward to this grant being successful with your support.
Thanks, Perry. Yeah, Ben Franklin has done tremendous work in Center County and throughout the whole central and northwestern part of Pennsylvania. They've been creating a lot of jobs here locally, a lot of successful new startups, and 1855 Capital has been part of that ecosystem. To show people at home what type of companies might benefit, can you give us your 90-second elevator pitch for Croptics?
Sure. So Croptics, we're a spin out of Penn State University. We're commercializing technology that can really transform agriculture by changing the way that agriculture utilizes detection of diseases and nutrition in crops. So we have a game changer technology that we're bringing to the field to assess crop health, and with that change the way that nutritional products are applied, diseases are kept at bay by staying ahead of those diseases and taking early action on things that are happening in the field. We think this will really revolutionize the way that agriculture basically maintains the health of a crop and increases production capabilities to really feed the world, sustain the world's need for food these days. So.
As a member from a pitch deck from a couple of years ago, Perry, I believe your technology is so fast that it benefits the farmers in the current growing season, correct?
Yeah. So traditionally, farmers leverage taking samples, sending them off to a lab, and waiting for the results, either to get an understanding of nutrition or disease. We're assessing in the field, so
Yes.
they get those results the same day. Right there, they can make decisions and look at ways of changing their fertility program and whatnot. So it's
Possibly even save the crop while it's in the field.
That's right.
So fabulous work, and glad to hear that you're commercializing the Penn State technology that will enable farmers to grow more food and feed more people.
Yes.
I like eating myself, so let's make sure that goes well. Commissioner Concepcion, any questions?
So is it like a lab kit that you take out into the field?
Yeah, kind of. So.
Or is it on like an iPad, or like how does this,
Yes.
how do you get the instant results?
Yeah, so we have a couple different versions of products, you would say. We have handheld versions that you can take and actually clip onto the plants and look at what's going on within the leaves. And then we have these kits that you can take to the field. You pull leaves off from various places across the field, bring them back to the unit, and get your result that way. So,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah, the speed is amazing.
Do you have a dollar figure that you can share with us as to what you're applying for in this grant, or is that confidential?
I think, so, one second here. So this is to support the creation of a fund that would be targeted for about $20 million between 1855 Capital and White Rose Ventures, was a York-based fund with support behind the scenes with Ben Franklin. Yep.
Yeah, it's an important type of capital we need, because Ben Franklin does tremendous work, but they're kind of limited to roughly $500,000 per venture. And nowadays, that gets you started, but it certainly doesn't help you commercialize. And that's where groups like 1855 Capital come in. As a member, they can usually go in for upwards of $1 million, maybe even $2 million in certain circumstances. So the $20 million will come in very handy, and it'll create a lot of jobs.
Yeah, and by having, by creating this more sustained fund here, it'll provide the ability to attract other funding, because once you have support, like larger support in the local community, we've experienced that firsthand by getting seed funding from 1855 and Ben Franklin. Now we've been successful in raising additional funds. So.
Fabulous. Glad to hear you're well into your Series A then. That's great to hear. We didn't used to have companies locally even make it to Series A before they left for California or somewhere else. Wonderful. Any other questions from the commissioners? No? Anything else, Perry? No? Questions from the press? We're good? All right. We'll take a motion.
We'll move to approve the letter of support.
We have a motion and a second to approve the letter of support for Ben Franklin Technology Partners and 1855 Capital for the Build to Scale funding opportunity. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks, Perry.
All right, thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
Mark.
Thanks for
Yeah,
coming.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, next up, we have our consent agenda. Relatively lengthy, but I think it was mostly standard contracts. Unless there's any questions, we'll take a motion.
I'll move to approve this week's consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second to approve this week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. We'll move to our check run. Commissioner Concepcion.
Okay, in today's check run, the check that I wanted to highlight is to Center Helps. This is a nonprofit organization funded by the county. It operates a 24/7 hotline
for community residents who may be in any kind of crisis to call and reach someone who can connect them with services that they might need. And with that, I would move to approve the check run dated July 14th, 2023.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the check run dated July 14th. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And John, I believe you have an administrator's report for the second quarter.
I do. Good morning, Commissioners. Just to recap, the BOC passed Resolution 1 of 2023, which allows the county administrator to execute any financial documents such as purchase orders, invoices, reimbursement requests, etc., not to exceed $15,000, and only in those circumstances where funding for such has been approved and allocated within the county's budget. In addition to the administrator's discretion, expenditures of no more than $15,000 may be made using contingency operating funds earmarked for the budget and reported on by the administrator at a following meeting. We must report on those types of expenditures at the next meeting. So for quarter 2 of 2023, there were 35 such authorizations performed with individual monetary values ranging from no cost to the cap of $15,000. Of the 35 authorizations, 9 were software tech-related services or renewals with a total value of $52,807.71. 13 items involved human services expenditures totaling $97,300, and the remainder included items such as insurance renewals, maintenance fees, and legal services totaling $71,520.13. The grand total of all expenditures authorized by myself in quarter 2 of 2023 equated to $221,627.84.
Thanks, John. Thanks for that report. Now we'll move on to our voter registration report. It appears Commissioner Dershowitz has something all ready to go.
We do. We have 99,812 registered voters in Center County this week. That's made up of 41,981 Democratic registrations, 132 Green Party, 598 Libertarian, 13,381 no affiliation, and 40,637 Republican voters. When you add the 3,083 all others, you'll find it's down 19 voters from last report. And I would like to acknowledge of the 3,083 all others parties, the unaffiliated. The unaffiliated party in Center County has 4 registrations, so I'd like to recognize the unaffiliated today. My precinct feature is precinct number 15, which is Rush North Central, which votes at the Christian and Missionary Alliance Church on Hemlock Street in Phillipsburg. And in the last election, there were a total registration of 204 voters, and there were 72 ballots cast in that election, which led to a voter turnout percentage of 35.29%. And we would again like to thank the folks at the Christian and Missionary Alliance Church and all the volunteers and workers out there that make it happen. And also I'd like to also say thank you to all the folks in Phillipsburg that had us all out for Heritage Days this weekend, and we had a great time and lots of great hospitality. So thank you. And that is my report.
Heritage Days is always a fun time.
Yes.
All right, John, any executive sessions to report or to hold?
No executive sessions to report or hold.
All right. And the remainder of our public meeting schedule, in a few minutes, we'll have a work session. And then next Tuesday, Board of Commissioners meeting at 10 a.m. On Thursday, the 27th, 9 a.m. is Finance Committee, and at 10 o'clock is a combination of Board of Commissioners and Salary Board. Do we have any additional questions from the press? All right, unless there's anything else for the good of the order, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn at 10:54 and a second. All those in favor of adjourning do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.